love you as long as I breathe.
This prophecy is how they enslave us!
We would be remiss to not mention how phenomenal this cast is. I mean, this is the perfect combination of an older generation of really experienced actors and tomorrow's movie stars, if you ask me. And I really want to kind of hone in and talk about four people in particular who somehow have all ended up in the same movie, kind of at very similar points in their careers. And I think we're going to look back on this moment 10 years from now like, how the hell did that happen? Those four were in the same movie at the same time in a big, mega budgeted blockbuster. It's kind of crazy, but that's Timothée Chalamet, of course, Zendaya, Austin Butler, and Florence Pugh.
The core four, baby.
Who right now are, again, establishing themselves as not only some of the most famous actors working, like these people are super famous and super well known. I think if you had to come up with a 35 under 35 list, they would absolutely be in the top 10, probably your top 5, if we're being honest about it. But in addition to all that, in addition to the glitz and the glam and the hype and the Instagrams and the photos and the Gen Z of it all, these are also really interesting actors. It's not like they're talentless. They're good. They're really, really good at their jobs. And I know you and I, we've been following a lot of them for a long time now because they are very close in proximity to our age and our generation. And we've been able to see some of their earlier films and see them ascend to now reach a place where they're starting to hit a new stride. And I think the most interesting thing is that their prime is still ahead of them. They're nowhere near their prime years yet. If they continue at the pace that they're on, the best is yet to come. But the fact that these four are in this movie at the same time, what does that mean to you? What does that say that Denis Villeneuve, his casting team, they were able to get, I think, probably four of the most famous actors of this generation right now in the same movie at the same time?
Yeah, man. He really is a lucky guy, but he's also very calculated. Those four actors are, I've been kind of talking about this with somebody else too. I actually forgot who it was, but we're talking about Zendaya. And I was like, Zendaya is absolutely a movie star, but she'll always, I think right now, she'll always kind of feel like a Margot Robbie in the point of like, she loves to act. So she's always going to be in very like nerdy, complicated scripts. You know what I mean? Like they're always going to be kind of that ilk. And I think these four actors fit that as well. And they all just really like to act, but that's their beginnings. They all come from that. They all have done these small independent films and have risen to the stage that is Dune Part 2. They've also had long careers, even though they are new and they're not in their prime. They've been here. And they've been working and choosing projects correctly. I think something that separates these four from a lot of the other people in Hollywood is they must have bomb agents. Like all four of these people, the
best of the best have to be.
They have been in tremendous movies. Like they have all just been killing it. And so, man, I think they'll only continue to do that. I think that's another thing that makes them special is they know at a young age that I'm just not going to go into any movie. I'm just not going to pick any movie. I'm just not going to be in anything. And I think Denis Villeneuve has earned, I think, the trust of Hollywood, right? I mean, Prisoners has Viola Davis, Jake Gyllenhaal, Hugh Jackman. Again, this is over 10 years ago. This dude had these actors in his movie. Paul Dano, look where they are now. Look where those actors are. You know what I mean? And so I think coming into this, their agents, them as actors knew that they could trust somebody like this who clearly loves to give his actors good work. And so I think that's what makes them special. They know exactly what they want to be in. They love to act. I know that still sounds crazy, but some people, again, just want to be movie stars. Some people just want to be in blockbusters. Those aren't these four people. That's not Austin Butler. That's not Zendaya. That's not Timothée Chalamet. That's not who am I missing? That's not Florence Pugh. That's not Florence Pugh. They are going to be in small movies. That girl was in Hereditary. Let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Like these are not the same. These are not. They don't take the same path that some other actors might attempt to take. And so, man, that's what makes them special, and that's what they're going to continue to make them special is their love for the work and their ability to choose the right work. And Dune Part 2 is, I think, a very good example of that.
Yeah, I'll start with Timothée Chalamet, who I admittedly had been skeptical of for a few years there, wondering like, okay, is this going to be the next guy up? And honestly, to see his rise as a leading man, it's really, really amazing. And he's just done such interesting work up until this point. You know, films like Call Me by Your Name or The King or Little Women, French Dispatch. He's worked with these really, really prominent filmmakers, Wes Anderson, now Denis Villeneuve, and Luca Guadagnino with Bones and all. Like, he is taking really interesting work, and then he can still go and be a part of this Dune franchise and showcase in particular in this movie why he's more than capable to lead this into the future. And then also goes and does a Wonka movie, a movie I admittedly am not a fan of, but it just made over $600 million at the box office. It solidifies him as a movie star. And let's be clear, being an actor and being a movie star are not the same thing. Everybody that's an actor certainly ain't a movie star. We probably got enough movie stars that we can count on two hands, maybe, if we're lucky at that. That guy is primed to be a movie star for a very, very long time. And I think it's interesting because a lot of parallels have been drawn between him and Leonardo DiCaprio. And he considers Leo a mentor. I think the parallels are pretty apt at this point. You know, for a long time there, Leo had always been taking interesting work. But I think what's interesting that we're also kind of experiencing now with Chalamet, who's only 26 years old, if I'm not mistaken, they're still in that period, or, you know, in the case of Leo, for a long time, all the 90s and even the early 2000s, he was in that period where, yeah, he was doing more mature films. He was doing films like Catch Me If You Can and The Aviator, but he still kind of felt boyish. He hadn't felt like a fully grown man yet. I think a lot of the roles that he was taking kind of put him in a really youthful light. It wasn't until 2006 when he did both Blood Diamond and The Departed, when everybody was like, "Oh no, this guy is it. He's a man. He's a fully grown man. He's a grown man, and now we have to perceive him that way." And he's been on an unprecedented run since then. He was 32 years old when he made those movies, and I think that Chalamet is kind of getting there a little bit quicker. I think he still has a little bit of those boyish elements to him. He could still play somebody really young and, you know, play somebody in his early 20s or maybe even late teens if he wanted to. But I think what he does here in Dune Part 2 and what he's going to continue to do in other films that he takes on, he's going to showcase like, no, he's ready to be that leading man. He's ready to be viewed in that particular light. Zendaya, I mean, come on, she's quite literally one of the most well-known, famous people on earth. She's one of the leads of the MCU's Spider-Man franchise. She's crushing it on Euphoria. Youngest two-time Emmy winner in history. A fashion fucking icon everywhere she goes. And I saw somewhere interesting. I saw an interesting stat that all 8 of the live action movies that she's been in up until this point, all 8 theatrical releases that have had proper theatrical releases, have crossed $100 million at the box office. She's never been a part of something that didn't make at least $100 million at the box office. That's insane. That hit rate
gotta hit
is, and that's going to be interesting to see what Challengers does. Can Zendaya open a movie, a very small movie, probably a really intimate story that's not going to have $100 million in marketing? Can she open a movie successfully on that scale? I'm really excited to see what that looks like for her, but she is obviously heading towards just a path of fame and potentially fortune that's rarely seen. Austin Butler, his superstar making performance in Elvis, that obviously sent him over the top. I'm watching Masters of the Air right now on Apple TV Plus. He's a great lead in that. Bike Riders is hitting the summer. His ability to manipulate and contort himself and cultivate a new character and a new voice is ridiculous. He practically takes on, because he's the nephew of the Baron in this movie. He perfectly is able to take on the Stellan Skarsgård accent, which I was not ready for, but he like nails it perfectly. If you embarrass our family once again, we'll kill you. Like,
you know, they said
just goes for
when he pulled up the set, he still had his Elvis accent. They said,
look, and look, he had to do a lot of work to get rid of it, because that's a hard accent. I mean, even when you see him now doing promo for the movie on Jimmy Kimmel or The Tonight Show, he still kind of sounds like Elvis. And it's like, yo, he sank himself into that role. I wonder how long he's going to sound like Stellan Skarsgård. But that guy, super interesting, super versatile. And then, of course, Florence Pugh. I mean, she's always a presence in her movies. Midsommar, Oppenheimer, Don't Worry, Darling. Obviously, what she's done with the MCU, Black Widow, Thunderbolts is going to come out. I'm sure she's going to steal the show. The fucking headpieces that she had on this movie, 10 out of 10. Costume department, 10 out of 10. She looks amazing. She always has incredible screen presence. And so, yeah, as I said, I think we're going to look back on this moment and say, like, wow, this was really, really special that these 4, you know, cross paths at the same time. It might not happen again, you know, for this particular generation. All that being said, who do you think the MVP of the movie was? It doesn't have to be one of those four. It can be out of any of the cast. Like, who do you think kind of walked away as like the biggest shining star after their performance in the movie? Because there's a lot.
There is a lot, man. I think on the surface, Javier Bardem for sure. I think he's a fan favorite. I think he was too much of a presence in that movie, like giving us everything that we needed from him, because he did dictate a lot of the politicalness of what was happening in the world of Arrakis. I have to give it to Javier Bardem, and I also think he brought something to the character a lot of actors wouldn't have. Like I'm thinking about other people who might have been in the situation to play Stilgar. I'm like, nah, it had to be Javier Bardem here, because I think he conveyed exactly what he needed to convey and brought some new things to the role too. That's like outside of the book, outside of the original Dune 1984 as well. He really killed it. I think under the surface, I know this is crazy, but I really like Rebecca Ferguson's, like, what she had to do in this film was every time she was on screen was like, this woman is put it on the acting clinic. Like, is anybody else seeing this? And I guarantee you, not a lot of other people talking about Dune are going to talk about Rebecca Ferguson in this way, man. But she was doing some really good lifting in this movie anytime she was on the screen. I absolutely loved her performance here for sure.
Yeah, Javier Bardem is having the time of his life throughout the course of this movie. He's become the biggest meme from Dune. I mean, I've seen so many Stilgar memes since that damn movie came out, because what he so expertly does, I mean, he has to do something really, really complicated, because he is a lot of the levity in the movie. He's a lot of the comedic relief, because there's this, without giving too much away, there's this this fanaticism that he has for Paul Atreides as being the Messiah. He is a believer to his core, and nothing wavers that belief. And a lot of those beats are played for comedy expertly early on in the film, but then there's a certain point in the movie where that changes, where it's not funny anymore. That is who he is. That's unquestionably who he is. Like, this is not a game to him. He is a believer of the prophecy. And to be able to balance that at the same time, Javier Bardem, he's a special kind of actor to be able to do that. I also saw somewhere that this is actually the first time, which is kind of crazy to think about because they've worked together. This is the first time that Javier Bardem and Josh Brolin have technically shared the screen together. Everybody knows them because of No Country for Old Men. They were at odds in that movie, two opposing forces. But if you've seen that movie, you notice that they never cross paths.
On screen together.
They're never on screen together. That's a lot of the movie and what it's about. And I think that this was the first time that they actually shared a scene together. Or a couple of scenes together.
Galactus.
Right, exactly. And even I can't give that away, but there's a couple, Batista's in this movie. I haven't thought about Thanos and Drax, so that was really, really fun stuff to see. I just want to also call out Charlotte Rampling as the Reverend Mother.
Oh my God.
Love her. Love
She's
her
so
in this
good.
movie. She is so
she has
good.
Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes of screen time, and she's like going
amazing.
stupid.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. There's a line in this movie. It's towards the end where something happens to her, something crazy, like you don't expect it, and she just says abomination. It's like the best line delivery in the whole movie. She's incredible. I can't wait to see more of the Reverend Mother in future movies. But yeah, it's chock full of just incredible performances. It's really hard to just pick one.